Welcome back to Easy English Pod, everybody. I am so pumped for today's deep dive.
Me too.
This one's a biggie. 10,000 English words.
In 30 days.
Yeah, in just 30 days, which honestly sounds
A little crazy.
a little crazy right there. But we're going to make it happen.
That's right. We're going to break it down step by step, and I'm going to share all the secrets.
The secrets. I love the secrets. Okay, so we're taking a 3-level approach here.
3 levels. Foundational.
And advanced.
Like we're leveling up in a video game.
Exactly. But it's not just about memorizing words.
Right. It's about like actually using them.
Yeah, using them confidently.
In real conversations so they stick with you.
Yeah, for you.
For good. For good. That's the dream, right? Okay, so week 1 and 2.
We're laying the foundation.
Building good habits.
Yeah.
Getting comfortable with the tools we're going to be using.
Exactly. We need a strong base.
But where do we even begin?
Yeah.
Like 10,000 words, that's a lot of words.
Well, one of the most powerful things you can do, especially in these first couple weeks, is focus on high-frequency words. High-frequency words, what are those?
These are the words that come up again and again and again in everyday English. They make up like 85 to 90% of the language you use daily.
Wait, so if we learn these high-frequency words first, it's like we're getting a shortcut to fluency.
You got it. It's like having the cheat codes for the game.
Oh, I love a good cheat code.
Me too.
Okay, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
But let's get practical. How many words per day are we actually shooting for in this challenge?
So to reach that big 10,000 word goal, we need to be learning about 333 words every single day for 30 days.
333 words. I mean, it's a commitment.
It is.
Like, I feel a little overwhelmed just thinking about it.
And that's why we're going to use a technique called spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition. What is that?
It's all about working with how our brains forget things.
I'm pretty good at forgetting things.
Me too, me too. But instead of letting that be a bad thing,
We use it to our advantage.
exactly, we strategically time our reviews.
Whoa.
So the words really stick in our memories.
So we're like tricking our brains into remembering.
Exactly. And the best part is you don't have to do it all manually,
Oh, thank goodness.
right? There are these awesome apps like Anki.
Heard of Anki
Yeah.
and Quizlet?
Yes. Quizlet, too. So you put the words in, you put in the meanings, even audio pronunciations if you want.
Ooh, fancy.
And then the app tells you exactly when to review each word based on how well you're remembering it.
So it's like having a little vocabulary coach in my pocket.
Exactly.
Okay, now 333 words a day is sounding a lot more doable.
Right.
But what about those of us who get overwhelmed by just like looking at long lists?
Oh, yeah. So that's where chunking and categorization come in.
Chunking and categorization, those sound
Very technical.
very technical.
But it's basically just a fancy way of saying instead of trying to remember a giant random list,
Okay.
you group similar words together.
Oh, like themes.
Exactly. Themes.
Like if I'm learning kitchen words, I could put fork, knife, spoon all in one group.
Exactly.
Oh, or like travel words like airplane,
Passport, yeah.
suitcase.
Exactly.
See, that makes so much more sense. Like my brain already feels calmer.
Right.
It's like organizing your closet. Suddenly you can find everything. And you know what else helps me? Like I'm a very visual person. So if I can make up a silly little story in my head or a funny picture, I tend to remember things better.
That is a fantastic strategy. That's called using mnemonics and visualization.
It sounds a lot more complicated than just a funny story.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's the same idea. You're tapping into your visual memory, and that helps create stronger connections.
The sillier, the better, I find.
Oh, absolutely. I always tell my students,
The weirder the image.
the more memorable the word.
Exactly. Like I once had to learn the word gregarious,
Gregarious. Okay.
and I pictured like a flock of geese
Okay.
all wearing party hats
What's it?
and like conga lining through a park.
That's fantastic.
I've never forgotten that word,
And you never will.
and I never will. Okay, so we've got our daily goal. Spaced repetition, chunking, mnemonics, visualization. It's starting to feel like we've got a plan here. Anything else we should keep in mind as we build this foundation?
One last thing. Remember to focus on those high-frequency words. So there are some great resources out there, like the Oxford 3,000 word list
Okay.
and the General Service list.
I'll put some links in the show notes
Perfect.
so people can check those out.
Those lists will give you a great starting point and help you prioritize those words that you'll actually use all the time.
Awesome. So week 1 and 2, it's all about setting ourselves up for success. Realistic daily goals, tricking our brains with spaced repetition, making things manageable with chunking and themes, and then unleashing our inner weirdos
Yeah.
with those crazy mnemonics.
So important.
It's a lot to take in, but I feel like we can do this.
We totally can.
And the best part, we're just getting started. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll be leveling up our strategies and diving into even more effective techniques to ramp up that vocabulary and make those 10,000 words a reality.
Welcome back, word learners. I'm excited for part 2.
Me too. We've got our foundation. Now it's time to level up those strategies. But I have to admit, the idea of ramping things up already feels a bit intimidating. What changes as we move into this intermediate stage?
Well, now we're going to focus on increasing the number of words you learn each day, and we're going to start using those words in context.
So it's not just about seeing a word on a flashcard anymore.
Nope. We're going to learn how to actually use those words in sentences, in conversations, in stories, in real life.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But how do we do both those things at the same time? Increase the volume and learn in context. That seems like a lot.
It is a step up, that's for sure. We're going to aim for somewhere between 300 and 500 words a day now.
Whoa. Okay, that's a pretty big jump from 333. How do we make sure we don't just burn out?
That's where contextual learning is so powerful. Instead of staring at flashcards all day,
Okay.
we're going to encounter these words in their natural habitats.
Their natural habitats.
Out in the wild. We're going to see them in sentences, in paragraphs.
In stories.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of just seeing the word happy on a flashcard,
Okay.
you might read a sentence like, "The child's face lit up with a happy grin as she opened her present."
I can already picture it.
Right. And that image, that feeling, that whole context helps you remember the word better.
It's like the difference between seeing a single color swatch and seeing a whole painting by like Van Gogh or something.
Exactly. Suddenly, the word has so much more depth and meaning.
I get it. And I've noticed that when I encounter a new word in a book I'm really enjoying,
Yeah,
or a TV show that has me hooked,
totally.
I remember it way better. It's like it becomes part of the experience.
That's your brain making connections
It is.
between the word and the emotions and all those things that are happening in the story.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what are some good ways to make the most of this whole contextual learning thing?
Well, graded readers are an amazing resource, especially if you're still feeling a bit shaky with your English skills.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah.
They were my go-to when I was first learning English.
Yeah.
You know, real books, but written in a way that I could actually understand.
Yeah. And they gradually get more challenging as you progress.
Like leveling up.
Exactly, like leveling up.
Cool. What about like movies and stuff?
Oh,
Can those help too?
100%. Streaming is your best friend here. Find an English language show you love.
I'm already thinking of like 5.
Perfect, and turn on those subtitles.
Okay.
It's like passive learning on autopilot. You're absorbing all those new words without even realizing it.
I love that. So we're reading, watching. What about those flashcards? Are we ditching them completely in this stage?
Not at all. We're just giving them a superpower upgrade.
Ooh, tell me more.
We're adding audio to the mix.
Audio.
So instead of just seeing the word on the flashcard, you're also hearing it pronounced correctly.
That's a good idea. I struggle with pronunciation sometimes.
A lot of people do. And you can either record yourself saying the words or use the text-to-speech function that a lot of flashcard apps have.
It's like having a built-in pronunciation coach.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're learning in context. We've got audio-enhanced flashcards. What else is in store for us as we level up?
Are you ready to become a word detective?
Yes.
Because we're about to crack the code of the English language. We're talking about roots, prefixes, and suffixes.
Ooh, those are fun. It's like learning the secret building blocks of words.
Exactly.
Like knowing that photo means light helps you understand words like photography and photosynthesis.
Yeah. Suddenly, one little root unlocks a whole chain of new words.
That is so cool. So instead of memorizing individual words, we're kind of like learning these patterns.
Exactly. It's like a shortcut to unlocking meaning.
I love it. Any tips for getting started with roots and prefixes?
Yeah, set aside maybe 30 minutes a day to just focus on roots and prefixes. Pick 10 or 20 each day and really dive deep.
Okay, 30 minutes a day. Word detective time. Got it. But even with all these fun strategies, this is still a pretty big commitment we're talking about. Like, how do we stay motivated and not just give up halfway through?
That's a great question. And I think one of the best ways to stay motivated is to turn learning into a game.
Ooh, gamification. I like the sound of that.
Right. So there are all these awesome apps out there like Memrise.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's built around game mechanics. So you earn points, you level up, you can even compete against other learners.
I'm all about a little healthy competition. I feel like that would definitely keep me going.
Yeah, it's like tricking your brain into thinking you're playing a game when you're actually learning tons of new words.
Genius. But what about the forgetting curve? How do we make sure all this hard work actually sticks?
Those spaced repetition apps we talked about earlier are still your best friend.
They are.
They're constantly testing you on words, right at that moment when you're about to forget them.
Sneaky.
It's like they know your brain better than you do.
So they're basically like our vocabulary sidekicks, always there to keep us on track.
I love it. But what about those times when, you just feel like your brain is fried
Yeah.
and you can't possibly learn another word?
We all have those days.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the best thing you can do is just step away and let your brain do its magic offline.
Offline.
Yeah. Remember how we talked about sleep being the secret weapon for solidifying memories?
Oh, yeah. Sleep. I'm all about that.
Well, sometimes the best thing you can do when you're feeling overwhelmed is just get a good night's sleep.
I can do that.
Your brain will be busy processing all those new words while you're snoozing.
I love that image. My brain doing all the heavy lifting while I'm off in dreamland.
Exactly. It's like having a little team of vocabulary elves working behind the scenes.
Okay, so we're reading, we're watching, we're listening, we're gamifying, we're sleeping. It feels like a full-blown vocabulary boot camp.
It is. But a fun one, hopefully. Definitely fun. And it's working. We're leveling up our vocabulary like crazy.
We are.
But the journey's not over yet, right?
Nope. Hold on to your hats, folks, because in part 3, we're diving into the advanced techniques that will truly solidify your mastery of those 10,000 words.
Ooh, can't wait. Welcome back to Easy English Pod. Fellow word warriors, we've built our foundation, we've leveled up our skills, and now
It's the final stage.
the final stage. I'm so excited to dive into these advanced techniques.
Me too. This is where it all comes together.
It does feel like, we've come so far. But I also have to admit, I'm a little nervous about actually using all these new words.
That's totally normal. You've spent weeks learning, memorizing, practicing.
Yeah.
But now it's time to take those words out into the real world.
Out into the wild. Okay, so how do we do that without, feeling self-conscious or sounding like a walking dictionary?
That is the question, isn't it? And one of the best answers is something called immersion.
Immersion. Like, should I book a one-way ticket to an English-speaking country?
That would definitely work.
Maybe find a nice little cabin in the woods, surround myself with English books and movies?
I mean, if you can swing it, go for it.
Tempting.
But for most of us, immersion can be a lot simpler than that.
Okay, I'm relieved to hear that. So what's a more realistic approach?
Start small. Label things around your house in English.
Like my fridge.
Yeah, your fridge, your door, your lamp, everything. It might feel silly at first, but it's actually training your brain to start thinking in English, even when you're not actively studying.
I can see how that would be helpful. Like my brain's constantly being reminded of these English words.
Exactly. And it makes those words more real, more connected to your everyday life.
So I'm basically turning my entire home into an English vocabulary playground.
I love that. That's exactly the right mindset.
Okay, so I'm labeling everything in sight, but what about actually speaking English? I mean, I can label all the furniture I want, but that won't magically make me fluent.
True. And that's where active usage comes in.
Active usage, so like actually opening my mouth and making sounds.
Yeah, it's about challenging yourself to use those words out loud as much as possible.
So even when I'm just like talking to myself.
Especially when you're talking to yourself, instead of thinking, oh, I'm so tired, try thinking, I'm feeling rather fatigued today.
Okay, I admit that does sound a lot more impressive than my usual internal monologue.
Right. And you can also try things like narrating your day in English,
Oh.
like
I am currently brushing my teeth.
I am now making a delicious cup of coffee. Exactly.
I like it. It's like giving my brain a constant English workout, even when I'm not studying.
And don't forget about the power of listening. Put on some English podcasts or audiobooks while you're doing chores or commuting.
Oh, I do that all the time. It's like my secret weapon for making even the most boring tasks feel productive.
It's a great way to passively absorb the language. Your brain's picking up all those new words and phrases without you even realizing it.
It's like osmosis for the ears.
Uh-uh.
Okay, so we're immersing ourselves in English, but we also want to get those words out of our heads and into the world, right?
Exactly. And one of the best ways to do that is through writing.
Writing? Oh, no. I haven't written anything since like high school.
Don't worry, it doesn't have to be a novel. Just start small. Maybe write a paragraph or two every day, focusing on using as many new words as possible.
Okay, a paragraph? I can handle that. Maybe I'll start an English learning journal.
That's a great idea. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
The goal is just to practice using those words in a written form.
Got it. And if I'm not feeling up to writing, can I just like talk to my cat in English? Or, have a heated debate with my houseplants?
Hey, whatever works.
Awesome.
The point is to just practice using those words out loud, even if your only audience is a furry friend or a ficus.
My cat's going to be so impressed with my newfound vocabulary.
I'm sure she will be. And if you're feeling really brave, you could try teaching some of your new words to someone else.
Oh, I like that. Sharing is caring, right?
Exactly. And when you have to explain something to someone else, it really forces you to understand it deeply yourself.
It's like solidifying those connections in your brain. Okay, this is all great, but 10,000 words is a lot of words. Can we maybe tailor our learning a bit? Focus on words that are more relevant to our specific interests?
Absolutely. That's where specializing your vocabulary comes in.
So like if I'm really into technology, I could focus on learning all the tech jargon. Or if I'm a foodie, I could dive deep into culinary vocabulary.
Exactly. Now that you have a strong foundation, you can really start exploring those areas of English that excite you the most.
It's like choosing your own language adventure.
Exactly.
But even with all this focus and all these great techniques, there's still going to be some words that just don't want to stick.
Oh, yeah, we all have this way.
Like they just slip through the cracks of my memory no matter how hard I try.
That's why regular testing and review are so important.
Testing. I haven't taken a test in years.
Don't worry, it doesn't have to be a scary exam. Think of it more like a friendly check-in with those words.
Okay, a friendly check-in? That sounds better.
There are tons of online quizzes you can take. You can go back and review your flashcards.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to revisit those words that just aren't sticking. It's normal.
So it's like giving those tricky words a little extra workout.
Exactly.
I can do that. But what about those times when you just hit a wall? Your brain feels like it's overloaded and it just can't process another word.
We all hit those walls, and sometimes the best thing you can do is step away and let your brain do its magic offline.
Offline again. So I guess this is where we talk about the importance of sleep again.
Sleep is the ultimate brain booster. It's not just about resting your body.
Okay.
It's about giving your brain a chance to process all that information you've been feeding it and move those new words from short-term to long-term memory.
So all those times I fell asleep with my face in a vocabulary book, I was actually onto something.
Well, maybe not the most comfortable study technique, but you are definitely giving your brain a chance to do its thing.
I like that. My brain's secretly working hard while I'm catching some Z's. Okay, so we're immersing ourselves in English. We're actively using those new words. We're testing ourselves, and we're getting plenty of sleep. It's like a complete vocabulary transformation. But before we wrap up, I have one last question.
Okay, shoot.
We've learned all these incredible techniques for memorizing 10,000 words, but how do we make sure they actually stay with us for the long haul? How do we prevent them from just fading away like a, forgotten dream?
That's a fantastic question, and it's where everything we've talked about comes together. Make English a part of your daily life, even after you've hit that 10,000-word goal.
So it's not about reaching the finish line. It's about making English an ongoing part of my life.
Exactly. Read the news in English, write in a journal, chat with friends online. Any opportunity you have to use those words in a real-world setting.
Got it. It's all about making those words a part of my daily routine.
Exactly. And don't forget those emotional connections, those silly images we talked about using for mnemonics. They're not just for fun. They actually make words more memorable because they tap into your emotions.
Oh yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Like I remember learning the word serendipity, and then that same day, I bumped into an old friend I hadn't seen in years.
Perfect example.
It felt like the universe was giving me a vocabulary lesson.
It's like those words become linked to those memories. They're inseparable. And
Right.
another powerful way to solidify your vocabulary is to teach those new words to others.
Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier. Even if it's just teaching my cat a few new words, right?
Exactly. The act of explaining something out loud really helps cement it in your own brain.
I love that. It's like spreading the word love.
Spread the word love. Okay, one last tip, and it's a big one. Embrace the beauty of encountering words in a variety of contexts.
Variety is the spice of life, right?
It is. And it's also the key to long-term vocabulary retention. Every time you see a word, whether it's in a book, a movie, a conversation, an advertisement, you're strengthening those neural pathways in your brain.
So it's like those words are getting a little workout every time I see them.
Exactly. It's like building vocabulary muscles.
Okay, so make English a habit. Connect words to emotions, teach them to others, and embrace encountering those words in all sorts of different places.
Got it. Any other parting wisdom before we sign off?
Just this. Make sure to do those periodic full reviews.
Oh, yeah, those.
Every few months, just take some time to skim through all 10,000 words.
Whoa. Okay, that sounds a little daunting.
It might seem like a lot, but trust me, it gets easier each time. And it's the ultimate way to make sure those words stay with you forever.
So it's like a vocabulary marathon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a marathon you can definitely win. Wow, we have covered so much ground in this dump dive. From high-frequency words and spaced repetition to contextual learning and root decoding, all the way to immersion, active usage, and emotional connections. It's been an amazing journey. And I have to say, I'm feeling a lot more confident about tackling this 10,000-word challenge now.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, this is just the beginning. You've got all the tools you need to keep expanding your vocabulary far beyond 10,000 words.
The world of English awaits.
It does. And to all our amazing listeners out there, we know this has been a lot of information, but we have complete faith in you. You've got this.
Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent and finding what works for you.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes. Learning English should be an adventure.
Exactly. So if you discover any cool memory tricks of your own along the way, we'd love to hear about them.
Share your progress, your struggles, your aha moments with us.
We're all in this together, and we can't wait to see you flourish on your English learning journey.
And before we go, we want to leave you with a little challenge. Remember how we talked about the power of emotional connections? So think about one English word that you could link to a vivid personal memory right now. Maybe it's a word that describes a feeling, a place, a person, an experience that's particularly meaningful to you.
Close your eyes, take a moment, and see if you can create that lasting memory link.
It's a fun exercise, and it might just unlock a whole new level of language learning for you.
Happy learning, everyone!
And we'll see you next time on Easy English Pod.